guys, we are back at it here. We've got Carlos with us again. So, Carlos, congrats on your first place finish last night. That was some pretty epic dueling.
Thank you. I'm pretty excited. I just finished building that deck in real life.
Oh,
The
nice.
Prank Kids Adventure. So hopefully, no one from my locals hears that. but
All right, so looking at our first card here, Spring of the Mysterune, it says you can activate Mysterune's quick play spell cards from your hand during your opponent's turn. Oh, that's a disaster. All right, once per turn, if you activate a Mysterune quick play spell card, you can target up to 3 Mysterune quick play spells in your graveyard, place them on the bottom of the deck in any order, and then draw that many cards. Oh
Draw
my
three.
gosh.
this card's broken, and it really reminds me of Spellbook of Judgment, because you're able to
Yes.
get so much advantage off of Spellbook of Judgment back in the day, during like the Spellbook Dragon Ruler format.
Yes.
Like that's what this reminds me of.
This is scary. And then we've got Deceit of the Mysterune. It's a continuous spell. You can only control one Deceit of the Mysterune. Each time a quick play spell card is activated, banish the top card of your opponent's deck. Oh, good gosh. Okay,
Yep, not a once
so
per turn. Not a
yes,
once per turn.
oh my gosh. Okay, we will come back to these two cards. I'm sure there's more here. Oh wait, there's not. Oh wait, yeah, there's the fusions. Okay.
We're going over the fusions first.
So
Yeah, just to give you
then we
context.
have Wings of the Mysteroon. It's a level 3 light fairy. You just need 2 Mysteroon monsters. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can discard one card and add one Mysteroon continuous spell from your deck to your hand. So that easily gets to that card that we just looked at. When your opponent activates a card or an effect that targets Mysteroon cards, and or set cards that you control quick effect, you can banish this card, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. Once per turn during each end phase, you gain 1,000 life points. Oh, good gosh. Fangs of the Mysteroon. Again, just 2 Mysteroon monsters for the fusion summon. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can target one non-quick play Mysteroon spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. It cannot be destroyed by card effects. When this card is destroyed by battle, you can target one card on the field and destroy it. Oh, wow. Okay, Carlos, based on what we've looked at so far, what are your impressions?
Well, I'm sure it's on the other side, but
We'll go back to that
Yeah.
slide. Go ahead.
you get really no, the future slide. There's actually a fusion monster that's way better than these ones. I think it's one of the Mysterunes searches the field spell, and that's broken
Oh,
because
gosh.
the field spell is like your main advantage
Yeah.
engine in the deck. So I think that's like the most important rich fusion monster. But besides that, I think these ones are good too. Obviously, obviously one of them can search continuous spells, so it can search the one that will constantly banish your opponent's
Vanish, yeah,
cards,
from the top
which
of
is
the
really
deck.
good. And the the one I can't even pronounce that, the Fang one.
Yes.
Jerry,
When he summoned, if your field spells in the graveyard, you could reoccur your field spell.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty good. You could also reoccur your continuous spell. So honestly, the fusions are just basically a nice little advantage engine.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
amazing.
and to give you some context, literally the two cards we looked at before, the continuous spell and the field spell, those are the only non-quick play Mysterune spells we currently have. So, literally with Fangs, all you're gonna get back is your continuous spell, which you're
Uh-huh.
almost never gonna do, or the field spell, which is always your priority. You want to keep that field spell with you as long as possible,
Absolutely.
and Munin here, or yeah,
Yeah,
that's I guess
Munin.
the name
Yeah, I think
Munin.
that's right. Yeah.
Munin, literally all you're ever doing is searching the continuous spell. It's if you already have the field spell, you may as well add the continuous spell. But as Carlos
Jeez.
said, we're gonna have the next fusion in the next slide, and if you don't have the field spell, 100% of the time you're gonna summon the other fusion because the field spell is what keeps this deck going.
Interesting. Well, let's go on to those that next fusion. So, we've got Wings of the Mysteroon here. Again, same summoning condition, just 2 Mysteroon monsters. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can discard one card, Add one Mysterune field spell from your deck to your hand. If another card you control would be destroyed, you can banish this card instead. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or effect, you get to return it to the extra deck. Oh, wow. And then here's some of the quick play spells now. So we've got Mysterune of the Brilliant Flame. You can activate only one card with this card's name per turn. Activate one of these effects. Skip your next battle phase after this card resolves. Target one opponent's special summon monster. Destroy it and then banish the top 2 cards of their deck. Oh gosh. Are they all like this, guys? That they're just gonna
Yep.
keep
Yeah,
oh my god.
The whole point is to mill your opponent out. It's really degenerate. Also, this deck I've seen builds where it can actually set up Omni negates as well as its spell card. It's kind of pretty degenerate to be honest.
Good gosh. I'm already worried. And then this next one, special summon one Mysterune monster from your extra deck to the extra deck or extra monster zone. Oh boy. Okay, and then we've got Mysterune of Destruction. You can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. Activate one of these effects. Skip your next battle phase after this card resolves. Target one spell or trap your opponent controls. Destroy it. Then banish the top 4 cards of their deck. Oh my gosh. And then we have special summon one Mysterune monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. And then after that, we've got Mysterune of Dispel. It says here you can again only activate one card with this card's name per turn. Activate one of these effects and then skip your next battle phase. If your opponent adds a card or cards from their deck to the hand, except during the draw phase, discard one random card from their hand and then banish the top 2 cards of their deck. And then again, the last part, special summon one Mysterune monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. Then we've got Mysterune of the Freezing Curse. You can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. Activate one of these effects, and again, you skip your battle phase. So again, the same thing's happening. But target one effect monster your opponent controls. Its effects are negated until the end of this turn. Then banish the top 3 cards of their deck. And then you have the special summoning of the Mysterune monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. Then we have Mysterune of the Golden Droplets. Again, it's a quick play spell. Again, you can only activate one of these effects, and then you have to skip your next battle phase. Your opponent draws one card, then you banish the top 4 cards of their deck. Oh my gosh. Okay, and then you special summon one Mysterune monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. Point of Mysterune. Oh my gosh, guys, there's so many. Okay, so you can activate one of these effects. You skip the next battle phase after this card resolves. Add one Mysterune card from your deck to your hand. Oh, that's terrific. Okay, accept point of the Mysterune and then banish the top card of your opponent's deck. So that's really good right there because that's 2 being banished if you have the continuous spell. Then you get to add a card that you want. Oh my gosh. And then you could do the other effect too of special summon one Mysterune monster from the extra deck. Mysterune of the Raging Storm. Again, same condition. Banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck equal to the number of cards they control. Oh my gosh. And then you've got the summoning clause again. Okay, and then there's Mysterune of Slumber. Activate one of these effects and then skip your next battle phase. So again, target one face-up monster on the field, apply this effect. Banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Once applied, this turn that monster cannot attack. Also, the next time it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, it is not destroyed. And then, of course, there's that special summoning clause. Oh, wow. Okay, guys, we've gone through all the quick plays. So, Grunt, what is your thinking here? Is this going to be top tier?
So I've seen a lot of people playtesting with this, and again, keep in mind, this whole deck is essentially a shell. You're running 3 of the field spell, you run 1 of the deceit. You don't really need to run more than 1 of it because you can only control 1. It's easily searchable. And for context, anytime you activate any quick play spell, doesn't even have to be Mysterune, you can just banish the top card of your opponent's deck. So essentially, when Deceit's on the field, you're able to add an extra mill on top of all these quick play effects. The field spell lets you cycle through your deck and keep drawing. You can run hand traps, obviously. You can run any form of attack interruption or stun.
Wow.
I've even seen some people experimenting with trying to lock down or run a few floodgates. The point is, you can stall your opponent with this, and unless they're able to keep your field spell off, which again, there's multiple ways to keep bringing it back.
Wow.
It's really not too hard to mill your opponent out, and even if your opponent is able to come back, unless they're a deck that specifies and specifically gets cards back from their banish zone, you can already cut down a good chunk of their strategy. Like if you banish off multiple Eldritches, or if you banish off any number of cards that they need to search from their deck, you can cut off plays very easily with some good banishes if you know how much Pot of Desires can screw you over. So it's not banishing face down, but it is really strong. This deck can do quite a bit, and it's very good at what it does. I've seen playtesting. Is it going to be busted? Not exactly, I don't think. I feel like there's going to be ways to work around it, but nobody likes getting milled. This is the one deck that doesn't care what your opponent does, and it's an actual mill deck being sponsored and supported by Konami, so make of that what you will. This is going to definitely cause some upsets at tournaments because...
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can easily cheese it against your opponent. Every single quick play gives you access to the extra deck. And you're not even going to run all of these at 3. You're going to run Point of the Mysterune at 3 because it can search anything.
Yes, that's really good. That was the card I thought you've got to play 3 of that.
Some of the Disruption, you're definitely going to want to run. I would say Freezing Curse, you want to play at least 2 to 3, probably 3, depending on the format, just because it's a chalice, essentially.
Yeah.
Golden Droplets. Golden Droplets is probably the weaker one, in my opinion. It does help you thin out your opponent's deck more, but giving your opponent an extra advantage while doing that isn't really preferable.
I would only be playing that in very specific situations where I know I'm about to outdeck them. Does that make sense? Like, I would make sure it was really close to where I'm like, okay, I give them this card and then they can't draw for the turn. That would be my thinking with that. So
the nice thing is that literally some of these are good going first. Some of these are definitely better to respond with. But the fact that the field spell can activate during either turn, the fact that you're able to recur your hand, even if you're not always going to be able to keep activating spell after spell after spell, as long as you're able to resolve the field spell and keep recycling your hand, it can be very easy to mill your opponent out. And some people in the OCG right now, from what I've heard, are literally building pile decks over 40 into like the 50 and 60 range just so they can avoid getting milled out by this, because it's a lot easier to mill 40 than 60.
That's interesting. Okay, Carlos, your take.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty dumb deck, to be honest. Like, I don't like mill decks, especially like ones that I don't know, decks like this that like kind of what are the words I'm looking for, that kind of promote like really slow gameplay and like stalling your opponent and just being really stunny aren't really that appeasing to me. I mean, it's funny because I play Eldritch, but there's some interaction there.
I was gonna say, you were talking about Eldritch.
The point is, I don't know. No, like Grunt says, no one likes to play mill decks. Something I did find is that is cool. Is you could put actually shit, you can't even play that. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say you could play Grand Maju with this, but you can't, because Grand Maju only gains banished cards that you control, that you banish, correct?
Yeah, I could honestly see some stupid degenerate build where you're playing DD Dynamite with this.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
That's actually disgusting because in Master Duel, one of the issues right now is since there's no side deck, people are playing like DD Dynamite
Yes,
and the
Eater of
what's that
Millions
one deck?
card or
The Eater
Banquet
of
of
Millions
Millions.
and
Yeah.
the Banquet of Millions.
Yep,
Yes,
Banquet of Millions.
and it's disgusting. And the funny thing is, whenever I run into that deck, they always play some like. I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent, but man, the last time I played that deck, it was like hilarious because the guy activated the card where you flip a coin, and then if it's heads, it's literally just pot of greed. But if it's tails, you give your opponent a draw two.
Oh yeah, Cup
And
of Ace. Yeah.
and and it landed tails, and I drew two, and then he just surrendered because he literally had nothing else, which was hilarious. The second time I was playing it, my opponent activated a draw card, and it was Upstart Goblin. And I was like, this is suspicious. Either you're playing Exodia or you're playing that FTK deck. And so I activated Droll the Knockbird in my hand, and then he just set a whole bunch and passed his turn.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is definitely that FTK Banquet of Millions. Then, of course, on my turn, he activates Banquet of Millions and DD Dynamite, but he only had one DD Dynamite.
Oh, so it didn't kill you. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't kill me. Also, Banquet of Millions, like, it doesn't bring his extra deck back.
No,
so,
it's just it his is banished for good, but you get to get all yours back. Yes.
Yeah, but I ended up just making Zeus the next turn and wiping his whole field, and it was hilarious. Like, those decks are so dumb. But the point being is, I really don't want that to become the meta in the TCG.
Well,
look, and that's what I want to say real quick. I like the concept behind this deck, and I'll be honest, I like this and Labyrinth. Like, this is probably the first deck building set where I'm actually interested in all three decks, mostly Labyrinth and this. Valiants get an honorable mention, but this is looking to be a decent side set. As much as people are hating on this deck, I think, again, if Eldritch has proven anything, people will play these slower strategies.
oh, I love the slow strategy. I do. I'm a huge fan of the slow strategy.
So it is what it is. And ironically, the mirror match is not that good because a lot of these effects do rely occasionally on like your own opponent's monsters, and it might not even like this. I think depending on the mirror, it literally depends on like what else are you running, because you're usually running more than just Mysterunes. And I don't know. I like the idea behind it. It's not a brainless control deck. It does require some planning and some luck with the draws. So it's I don't know. It's not for everyone, and I understand why some people hate it. I personally like that. I like that it's different. It's not trying to be another deck.
It's interesting because has there been mill strategies? Of course. I think of my Ghost Trick deck with Skeleton. It was so hard to mill my opponent out. It would take forever, but I could pull it off. And with this, it's interesting that they have given an entire archetype to it. So that is definitely something I want to try it. I do want to see how this plays, and even if it doesn't work that way, there are some other uses, especially looking at Freezing Curse. I mean, target one effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects, and then they banish the top 3 cards of their deck. That's just better than Forbidden Chalice. Why wouldn't I do that?
The only cost is you're skipping your battle phase.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I forgot about that. So,
but I mean, hey, if you're playing Burn and Mill at the same time,
yes,
and you want to be that guy, this is good for you too.
You want to be that guy.
Look, I'm not saying that anyone's gonna appreciate playing against this. I understand why people are against it. At the same time, though, it's not hard to find some decks that can gimp it. Metaphyz can get around this. Thunder Dragon can probably get around this. And again, people are literally building pile decks in the OCG, which even without these Mysterunes being out yet, we're able to see pile decks in the TCG. I've literally seen some of the dumb pile decks being built with like 60 cards and all the good engines, and I'm just like, okay, we're entering one of those formats. So I don't really know if Mysterune is going to be busted. I think it'll be annoying to face,
Uh-huh.
but I don't think it's going to be like... It's going to be one of those decks where if it dominates the meta, people are going to do everything in their power to play around it.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting you bring that up. So, Carlos, we were talking about this before we went live. Anti-spell fragrance, there we go, is a must against this deck. What other cards would you be thinking of running that would shut this down?
Honestly, I haven't playtested against this a lot, so I honestly don't know. But like anti-spell, like you said, damn, what else? Like non-ironically, Lancia, artifact Lancia, because it prevents your opponent from
banishing.
So like,
yeah, that's a great point. Yep.
Yeah, so that's probably the main one that comes to my hand, especially because artifact Lancia hits a lot of other decks.
As well. Mm-hmm.
You could unironically play Field Barrier before they get their field spell back up if you do destroy it, because they have a way to recover it. They don't really have a way to activate it during your... That's the thing. This deck relies on its field spell. It has holes. Like, people are comparing this to Sky Striker, and I'm like, yeah, here's the thing, though. Sky Strikers have a lot more recurability than this. They're able to bring their field spell back, sure. Everything can bring out the extra deck monster, like, to, recur stuff. But... I don't know. I think it's fair and balanced, and I say that now because they're probably going to find even crazier support to give it in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't wait to play test it. Yeah, and I was also thinking Naturia Beast would be another card that would be very effective against this. And also, isn't there the Six Samurai card that could do that as well? I don't know. There's certain cards I'm thinking of that would stop some of these.
I don't think people are going to be running Shogun Shien to shut this down, but
yeah,
hey, you do you.
Just interesting for sure. So I can't wait to see what they do with this and what players do with it. That's going to be the interesting part, all that play testing. We hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! News you might have missed in Mysterunes. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Also, we'd love to have you guys be subscribers to the channel. If you ever want to catch what we're doing live, we'd also love to have you guys be a part of our Twitch community. Hey, thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Wait for your next challenge. I know that you'll be back.